So we're at the point in the podcast where before we transition to the larger discussion, we always like to keep you abreast of what's going on the Osiris Podcast Network, kind of recommend some other brother and sister podcasts from Osiris for you to listen to. So, Brian, what do you got for us?
So I took a run the other day and I threw on the friends of ours from No Simple Road. No Simple Road is one of the OG Osiris podcasts. They've been around since the beginning of this whole thing. And I think they were even around prior to that. They've released over 200 episodes at this point in time. They did an interview recently with the bassist Reed Mathis, guitarist Reed Mathis, songwriter Reed Mathis. Really, really great. He's everywhere. He does everything. He played in the Billy and the Kids set that I saw last summer. I hung out with him a bit before the San Francisco Fish Show. Really, really nice guy. Was just jamming tunes outside of a cool little brewery right across from the Chase Center. We hung out for a little bit, talked fish, talked music. Really good guy. One of the focuses of this interview, and I guess I should say like the vibe between the No Simple Road crew and Reed Mathis is worth listening to just for that, because these are souls united in a lot of cases, and you hear them and you're just kind of like, I feel better. I feel just like a part of this whole energy that you all are sharing and giving off. I feel relaxed. I feel like I'm learning while also just like listening to a really pleasurable conversation, which is really at the end of the day the joy of podcasting, I think. But they talk a lot about these shows that Reed played about a week or two ago, where he put a band together and covered Bob Dylan's 1989 record "Oh Mercy" and 1997 record "Time Out of Mind," which are two of my favorite Dylan records of all time. They really showcase late era Bob Dylan in a way that really ties it to his early period and to the period of his career where he was most prolific. And it's just like songs are just coming out of him. And Reed talks a lot about really digging into the lyrics and really digging into the poetry and putting this band together and really feeling what Dylan was speaking. So it's a really great interview. It's a really cool preview for a show that I'm curious if any listeners got to check out. I think it was in San Francisco in early February here. But I highly recommend this episode. I highly recommend just listening to No Simple Road. Dare I say they're kind of Marin-esque in the sense that it almost doesn't matter what guest is on. You just want to kind of hear the podcast to hear their take on the guest and them hanging out and them sharing their visions and views of the world. So I would recommend No Simple Road, Reed Mathis. What do you have, Dave?
Yeah, No Simple Road's awesome. They've been at it for a long time. They've got a really good vibe hanging out on the porch. They're like CBD in podcast form. You just take enough of it and you get chilled out. So I'm going to talk about one that I've enjoyed in the past. This is Wheels Off with Rhett Miller. This was a recent encore performance. He did an interview with Liz Phair, the musician. I want to say, from the sounds of it, I think it was conducted in May of 2021, because she was just about to release her latest album called Soberish. It's a good record. It came out in June of 2021. They're just basically two like parents talking about the pandemic, how things have changed for them, how they've kind of had the transition to doing home paid webcasts. Like I know Rhett Miller, of course, he's in the band Old 97s, used to make his living on the road. Now he's saying how like 4 nights a week he gets in front of a camera and plays a bunch of great songs to an adoring audience out in cyberspace. And Liz Phair is saying she does similarly. And they're just kind of talking about the differences between being home and being on the road, how the pandemic has gotten to shift their priorities. Just a very interesting conversation among two musicians who got in their start in the 90s and are kind of still doing it to this day. So, yeah, check out all of the Wheels Off with Rhett Miller podcast, all of his interviews. But, yeah, the most recent one with Liz Phair was very good.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. I was listening to that as well. And, yeah, hearing the varying perspectives of what it was like to be a parent over the last 2 years. It's really comforting. It really makes you feel like okay, we got through this. We can really get through anything. But those are our recommendations this week for Osiris Media's podcast releases. We encourage you to check those out, as well as all other podcasts that are coming out on Osiris Media.